Welcome to Codependency Alchemy, the podcast, where we dive deep into the struggles and challenges that come with relationships. Today, we're tackling two topics that often go hand in hand: overgiving and setting boundaries, and resentment in the shadows behind asking for what you need. First, we'll explore the importance of identifying our own needs and desires when it comes to setting boundaries. We'll discuss how to enforce these boundaries and remind ourselves that we are responsible for respecting our own needs. I love these Q&A episodes because I get to take questions from this community, from you guys, whether it was in the DMs or on my IG story, and give you practical solutions, tools, ideas, just thought-provoking ways of being with yourself to navigate some of these more challenging parts of our relationships. So if you're struggling with overgiving, setting boundaries, or feeling overwhelmed or resentful in your relationships, please stay tuned and listen to this episode. Okay, first we're going to get into overgiving and setting boundaries. And this first question actually came from one of the members in the Codependency Alchemy membership group. If you don't know what the membership is, it is a group of women that I hold space for every month. We meet live on Zoom to have these conversations, to talk about codependency, to get a new lens, get curious, and do some of the shadow work that is so necessary and needed when we are moving through healing these core wounds of isolation, overgiving, self-sacrificing, and just in general codependency, and so much more. So the question that came in was, how do I deal with relationships that have growing pains? When you start to assert boundaries and flip from an overgiving way of being to a receiving mindset. So let's talk about how we even identify boundaries. The first question you want to ask yourself is, what do I need? And the second one is, what do I desire? This kind of falls a little bit in line with the values filter that we've talked about, like how do you desire to feel in a relationship? What do you value in a relationship? And you can use those tools for this as well. When I was learning how to identify my own boundaries, I really tapped into that felt sense. How do I desire to feel in my life? So if I desire to feel safe in my life, what is it that I need in order to feel safe? If I desire to feel calm in my life, what is it that I need in order to feel calm? So these questions are going to really help you learn what those needs are so that you can bring awareness to how you can begin to meet those needs. A lot of times in relationships, we haven't uncovered what we need or what we desire, especially if we have codependency patterns, because we are so consumed by assuming the needs and desires of others that we haven't fully identified them for ourselves. And when we don't take the time to identify our needs and our desires, that typically leads us to feeling resentful when we are in that place of overgiving or self-sacrificing. A lot of times, what we are giving of ourselves, the overgiving, the moments that we overgive, the moments that we self-sacrifice, those are typically ways that we want other people to show up for us. So let that sink in for a moment. The way you're showing up for other people is likely what you're needing or desiring for others to do for you. And this is the pivotal moment for me in my life and my relationship when I stopped making my partner responsible for meeting those needs, and I began to meet those needs for myself. So let me elaborate on that a little bit, because I think that if you took this one thing away from anything that you ever hear me say, this will change your relationship. This will change your life. doing this one thing. Whatever you are saying you want your partner, your mom, your friend, your child to do for you, you turn it around and do it for yourself. So when I was constantly saying, I need Justin to spend quality time with me, I started saying, I need to spend quality time with me. And then you start seeing how quality time is so nuanced, and it invites you to get even more specific. What is quality time even? What does that look like for me? Because quality time for me will likely look very different than quality time for you, will look different than quality time for my partner. So, in uncovering what was important in the quality time that I was asking for, is that I got more clear on the need and the desire. For me, quality time meant deep conversations. I wanted to talk about something that wasn't surface level. I wanted to get to like the deep, gooey, vulnerable, stuff. And it wasn't that my partner wasn't interested in that, but it wasn't a need or desire that my partner had. And I think oftentimes in relationships, what we do is we make that wrong. We make our partners not needing the same things we need wrong, or that they don't care about us, or that they don't love us, or that they've lost interest in us. You can even use this with like a household chore. You hear people say it all the time. I want him to want to do the dishes. I want him to want to tidy the house. I want him to want to do these things. And I think that I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but hopefully it's an important tangent that you get something out of. When we have a need for the dishes to be done, for example, that's our need. We have that need because I'll talk about myself, okay? I need the kitchen to be clean. It is my thing. Like, I want there to never be dishes in the dishwasher is fine. I want there to not be dishes in the sink. It's just this thing that I have. It's a need that I have. And so if that is my need to have a tidy kitchen, then it is my responsibility to take care of that need. So if I don't want dishes in the sink, then I need to put the dishes in the dishwasher. And if I reach a point where I am feeling resentful for doing the dishes all of the time or doing my partner's dishes, I have to articulate that need or desire to my partner. I get to go up to my partner and say, hey, I'd really love your support. Can you please help me by putting the dishes away today? Now, we have to remember that our partners also get sovereign choices and can say yes or no to this request. So, if they say yes, great, you articulated a need, you allowed yourself to feel safe enough to ask for that support, and your partner heard you and is meeting you there. Now let's say it goes the other way. Hey, I really need some support today. Can you help me by putting away the dishes? And they say no. 1, you asked a yes or no question. They answered no. A lot of times, this will trigger the person who's asking for support, which is totally valid, and I 100% understand. It's important to prepare yourself for that potential outcome and hold space for yourself when that activation or that trigger occurs. So say your partner says no, but you've prepared yourself for that potential outcome. You get to say, I hear you saying, no, you're not able to support me in putting the dishes away today. Again, letting them know that what you're hearing is that no, you are unable to meet a need of mine today. So there's clarity for you and for them that they're saying no to supporting you and meeting one of your needs. I would table any conversation from that moment, but this is where I would absolutely come back to have a conversation about this at a later time. You gave yourself the opportunity to ask for what you need, and you allowed your partner to also articulate where they're able to meet you. If your partner is continuously saying no, they're unable to support you, this is where you would bring the conversation back at another time. So, as this person in the membership had asked, like, okay, the growing pains of asserting your boundaries, the second piece is like enforcing our boundaries. So, how enforcing your boundaries might look in this example would be you're desiring support. And so, your boundary is actually choosing not to be in a state of overgiving and self sacrificing. So, wherever you're feeling like you're overgiving or self sacrificing, you have to enforce a boundary to keep you in. It's remembering that boundaries don't keep other people out, boundaries keep you and your energy in. So, wherever you're feeling that resentment start to build up, that's your indicator of a place where you're overgiving. And that is your tool to use for how and where and when to set a boundary for yourself. So, if I'm feeling resentful for doing the dishes again, I'm going to allow myself to pause. And I have two choices to make. One, let go of the resentment because I have a need for the dishes to be done, and I get to release my partner from the expectation that he needs to be participating in that as well, so that I can live in a state of just freedom and liberation of not needing to feel the suffering of not being supported. Like, I get to release that story. Or I get to say, it's really important for me to share these household responsibilities with my partner. And I'm going to choose not to do the dishes today and bring this conversation to the table with my partner. So let's talk about what bringing that conversation back around at a neutral time would look like. First, you always want to start with consent. Hey, I would love to talk to you about something I was feeling earlier today when I asked you to help me with the dishes. Are you open to having a conversation about that right now? Again, they get to say yes or no because it's an open-ended question. If they say no, again, this is really important information. If whenever you're bringing conflict to the table to discuss with your partner and they are consistently telling you that they are unable to have that conversation with you, it is important to note that. Because when they're saying no consistently, they are showing you where they are at. And if you continuously try to bring something to the table in order to help your relationship evolve and grow into one that is healthy, loving, and reciprocal, but they are actively not participating in that co-creation and collaboration with you, this is information. And that is going to be information that you will get to use towards, is this a person who's actually in resonance and alignment with me or not? So I know I've kind of diverted slightly from the question at hand. It all is around boundaries, but I just felt called to bring this dialogue and conversation of like how these conversations might look with a partner, because boundaries can be really messy. And for me, I really do try to meet all of my needs for myself before ever asking my partner to meet my needs. And I still think that that's really important to do because it allows you to not put your needs and your desires in the hands of somebody else. Because when our needs and desires are placed in the hands of somebody else all of the time, then we are constantly putting ourselves in a position to be disappointed or let down or feeling disempowered. So I believe that when we take initiative to take responsibility for our own needs and desires first, we constantly are coming from a place of feeling empowered, resourced, and this overall feeling of self-trust continues to build because you know that like you've got you have this relationship with yourself that like you know that you are there to meet your needs. But This conversation around the dishes, I don't know why this is coming up as an example. I'm just trusting that there's someone out there that needs this kind of support. And since we're talking about boundaries and enforcing them, it's important to remember that other people might have big feelings. The people who you set boundaries with, especially ones who have benefited from you not having boundaries, they're going to have big feelings about it. So I've kind of explained it like this with people that I've worked with in the past of like imagining a drive-through window where you open the window, put the food on the window, wave them goodbye, close the window. You feed them at this window every day. They know every day they can come to this window and they will be fed again and again and again. When you begin to start enforcing your boundaries, you might have a sign on the window that says like closed. And they're like banging on the window, like, where are you? Like, the food's supposed to be here. It's 5 o'clock every single day. And you open the window and you're like, yeah, I'm not cooking today. There's a grocery store across the street and you're welcome to make your own meal. The person who's come to that window and has been fed at this window every day for years, for most of us, they're going to have some big feelings. They've come to the window hungry. Have you ever been hungry and like been denied food? Like that turns into hangry, and hangry turns into rage and anger and craziness. Expect that people are going to be uncomfortable on the other side of that window when you start saying no. When you start saying, I actually don't have energy to make dinner tonight, and so food is not here today. You're gonna have big emotions on the other side of that. It's important to remember that the way that others feel about you enforcing your boundary has nothing to do with you. And what we get to do in those moments is hold compassion and hold grace for them as they're navigating it. Do not allow them to mistreat you by any means, but just understand that they're going to be in a state of dysregulation, likely, and trust in their resilience to move through it. I am always so impressed and also not surprised by when my clients really hold that space and don't go in immediately to fix it, how many times their partners actually, within a short period of time, come in and take ownership and take responsibility. And so know that it is possible for that to happen, and that is intimacy, and that will grow your relationship more than you going in and fixing their discomfort will. So as we're navigating boundaries, identifying your needs, identifying your desires, uncovering how you can meet your needs and desires for yourself, and then where you're experiencing feelings of resentment from overgiving and self-sacrificing, using those as tools to ask for your partner or your friend or your child or your parent to support you and helping you meet a need, and not judging them or making them wrong if they are unable to meet that need. Because more judgment and shame from someone unable to meet your need isn't going to bring more connection. It's only going to cultivate more separation. And in that separation will only be more suffering. So just knowing that not everyone is able to meet your need, and that doesn't have to mean anything about you. It actually doesn't mean anything about you. It's them showing you where they are, and that's okay. And you get to decide where else you can get that need met, or if that is a need that you can let fall by the side for right now. Like with the dishes, like maybe I don't need that need met today, and that's okay. Maybe I can give myself a little bit of grace and let that fall by the side for right now. That, of course, is not going to be the case for plenty of other things like your safety and your security and your well-being. Those things don't get to fall by the side. They do sometimes, but it's important that we show up for ourselves and we meet those needs of safety and security for ourselves. So I hope this episode helped you in learning how to identify your boundaries by asking yourself, what you need, what you desire, and how you desire to feel so that you can begin to identify how you can meet those needs and desires for yourself. And after identifying needs and desires and boundaries, taking it that next step further of how you can enforce your boundaries and the importance behind enforcing them. Because enforcing boundaries is not about keeping others out, it's about keeping you and your energy in so that you can experience a healthy, more loving reciprocal relationship with others. And it's remembering that how other people react or respond to your boundaries is not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of them and where they're at, and what we get to do is hold compassionate, loving space for them and grace as they navigate their discomfort and trust in their resilience to move through that on their own before going in and trying to fix their discomfort, allowing them to come to their own ways of soothing themselves so there isn't a dependency on one another to ease each other's discomfort, but that there is a safe place for both of you to come to navigate and move through discomfort in a safe container held by one another. I would love for you guys to go ahead and share in the comments what some boundaries you uncovered were. What are some of your own needs? What are some of your own desires? And in which ways are you meeting those needs and desires for yourself? Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next month as we'll dive into a new topic. Looking forward to it. Until next time.